Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for
Here. Thanks everyone for joining the second part of a vertical specific series. Last month I did healthcare, and again, these are all solutions a supplier has an option for that pays commission on. So that's cool. And last month was healthcare. Today is hospitality. Had a lot of folks show interest in this. A lot of folks couldn't make it. So again, that's why we're recording this and we'll be sent out. So it's going to be speed dating almost. I had to stop. I actually had a lot of suppliers very interested. And as you would imagine, it is a growing area and has been for some time. And we're going to talk about that. So it's going to be, let's look at the agenda. So just a quick welcome. Again, obviously, thank you for making this. In the interest of time, I'm going to let Todd go here in a moment from Epic. He had a conflict and almost couldn't make this call, but I said, you got to make this call because you have a very unique solution for this space. I know he was just telling me yesterday about a great story that I'm like, man, any hospitality owner, Keith's going to be talking later after Epic. We'll hear from Keith. Kind of an expert in this space. We can hear from him, but in the interest of time, like I said, I want to get your message out, Todd, before you have to go to your other meeting. But with that, let's go ahead and hand the mic over to you, and I'll stop sharing. Did you have something you want to share as well?
I do, as a matter of fact, Chris. Thank you.
Go ahead and take it away. You guys share.
Do the share screen thing here, and we will go quickly. Hello, everyone. I'm Todd Holsombeck. I'm a channel manager in the Southeast for Epic IO. We do a lot of things, but we're only going to talk about one here for a minute that fits into the hospitality space. We are going to talk about a biosecurity product that we have built that uses artificial intelligence and low-dose ozone for cleaning and decontamination. If you want to talk to me about other subjects or talk to your channel manager, I'm going to put that slide up at the end. But this is unique, and we don't see anything like it. The application within hospitality, I just did a screenshot of an article from Hotel Business. I'll be happy to share that with you afterwards, or you can write down the URL while I'm talking. But they're estimating that the cost of smoking in hotel rooms is $5.4 billion. Well, they're probably, overstating that a little bit, but even if they're only half right, there's a lot of money that is costing hotels for smoking. And we all know from a common sense standpoint, folks now are no sensitive. They walk in and they smell a room and they go, you're either going to move me or I'm changing hotels. So this is a problem. It costs room nights. Several hotels, we've been out doing some surveys and we have some of these in pilot right now. But what we're seeing for the medium to large hotels is 1 to 2 smoking incidents a month. Each of those smoking incidents costing 1 to 2 room nights. So it's a revenue. We have a solution called Epic Aura. That's it. I'm going to go quickly through this. Just so you get from a scale standpoint, it's about the size of a briefcase. It weighs about 15 pounds. It can be portable, and it can generate low-dose ozone on demand if need be. Real quick, from a cleanliness standpoint, this doesn't talk about odors, but in a fitness center, just so that you see how good we do from a proof is in the pudding, we swabbed a bunch of areas before we ran our device. We ran our device for 2 nights and swabbed it again. And look, from a selling standpoint, you can really almost sell on that because people go, yuck, when they see these. And we got some grocer slides if you need them later on down the road. It's easy to operate. I've got a couple of slides in here about the user interface. You can log on to it from the web. You can tell when the device is running or not running. You can schedule activity to use it or not use it. And then you can see results of how we built up ozone. We're doing 0.5 to 1 part per million. Ozone's caustic in high doses. We're talking to some hotels that have actually bought ozone machines. The problem with them buying ozone machines is they're getting up to 50, 100 ppm, running it for an extended period of time. And yeah, the room smells better and it gets the smoke out, but they're quickly damaging plastic, rubber components that are in the room. This is low dose. We don't have the side effects that come with that. The use cases in hotel are primarily smoking, but we're seeing interest additionally in conference rooms and combined spaces to do a cleanup prior to holding meetings. Let's talk about the different times. That cleanup, you probably need to run about a 6 to 8 hour cycle. You need to let the half-life of the ozone come in, but if you ran it overnight before you had a meeting in the morning, the room is going to be fresh, clean. You're not going to be worried about spreading germs, and the smell is demonstrably different. Second one that I can tell you from the room standpoint, we've already done the testing, and we have some of these out, like I said, deployed in pilots, so that you can literally run this at about 0.5 ppm for about 2 hours, and the smoke smell is gone permanently. We've gone back, done that kind of work. So literally, if a maid catches this early enough in the day, you might not even lose one room night. Might be your late check-in to run a cycle with it. Just walk in there, push the button. Oh, by the way, it has a motion sensor on it, so that if somebody comes in the room, it shuts itself off. But extraordinarily powerful from that standpoint. The use cases, again, where we talk, we are in a couple of major resorts. We're in a large, one of the larger hotel operators with 200 hotels across the United States that's looking to put one of these units in every location they have for the hotel room night capability. And I would point out that, standard retail now is right around $400. There's probably some room to discount with volume, but you do the math on 200 times 400 and you've got a pretty good, you got some pretty good mailbox money coming to you. These things can be large, and even the small onesie twosie hotels that you're doing can add up pretty quickly at $400 a month from a recurring revenue standpoint. We do a lot more with this device than hotel. If you have interest in it, we're more than happy to talk about it, and we will go from there. It looks like my slides came off. I did have a channel map up there. I'll make sure that you guys get a copy of the slides that Chris can present. If you've got questions, you can talk there. I went pretty fast, so I'm going to say one more thing, Chris. I'm talking about this, but that big hotel operator that we have, I would also tell you that every fire alarm, every call button, and a lot of fax lines in every one of those hotels uses us for POTS replacement. So we do that in the hospitality industry as well. I think I went pretty quick. That's all. That's pretty unique for me, right, Chris?
Yeah, very unusual. I was concerned, but you delivered. Hey, just a quick question, and maybe Keith can comment on later, but do you have any hard times getting in to all the different, politics, I guess, of hospitality with the major brands yet? I mean, you have to be approved on their approved vendor list. Has that been an issue?
There is some pushback, but we're seeing folks work around it. And I would also tell you that a couple of the major brands we're in conversations with so that we get on that super vendor list, so to speak.
Perfect. Very good, Todd. Fascinating technology. Is whoever thought that telecom and the channel would be talking about smelly air, smelly rooms. Very cool. Well, we'll wrap it up with you, man. In the follow-up email, we'll have Todd's contact information and a copy of the slides. If you want to send me a couple of sterilized slides, whatever of what you went over, I'll include that as well.
Happy to do it. I got to make it smaller because I was going to email it to you already, and it's too big with all those pictures in there. But let me chop it down a little bit, and I'll get you fixed up. Okay.
Excellent. So if you're just joining us, that was Todd with Epic IO, and because of a scheduling conflict, we went ahead and let him kind of go first so he can get back to his other meeting. Just going to start shortly. Now we're up to Keith Koniki and I. We're going to have a quick conversation. Keith, are you ready to go?
Sure am. Thank you.
Yeah. So Keith, for the audience, just real quick, I got your bio up and things you specialize in, but maybe just give us another overview of your intro.
Sure. I've been in the industry about 25, 30 years. I've helped open up about 7,000 hotels and various different technologies. I've also been involved with all the brand approvals for the major brands when it comes to telecommunications and infrastructure related products and services. I've helped 3 companies go global with the products. And what Jet does now is we help owners with their selection process on their technology. So new builds and renovations to make sure they're hitting the standards, and also looking at new technology and those kind of things to make sure they're up to speed on things. So that's what Jet does, and that's what I do.
Wow, man, that's my time at Comcast Business at one point, I was over selling cable TV services to hotels and motels and hospitality. And it was interesting. I'll just leave it at that. I think it was tough. There's some tough customers there.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate your background there. So what are you seeing as an overall state of the hospitality industry? So we have all these partners on that are either A, selling into it, or B, interested in selling into it. What are you seeing in the industry?
Well, as you may know, COVID last 2.5 years has had an impact on all industries. But in the hospitality industry in particular, it was pretty devastating. A lot of my friends in the industry that were with the various different brands, 10, 15, 20 years, were furloughed and let go, 90% in some of the brands, just so you know. So that had a huge impact on where hospitality industry was going. But I'm happy to say 2022 overall was a much better year. And 2023 is turning out to be a record year for hospitality technology. As far as new trends, what I'm seeing in the minds of operators and brands these days, I'll kind of go through a laundry list here. Is the first thing is by far attracting and retaining new talent is really on everybody's mind, because with the let go of all the force and people in the industry, they've been trying to say, okay, now how do we attract these people back and come work for us, the front staff, housekeeping staff, and various different operational positions in the hotel industry. So what's happening is hospitality is stepping up with technology. Okay, and so what you probably have seen or heard if you've done a recent stay, mobile check-in, you're seeing that almost at every single brand now with your mobile phone. You're seeing guest kiosks being used. And a lot of self-service solutions are being pushed through personal devices. So what the hotelier is trying to do is allow the guests to come in and serve themselves on things and not have to rely on the front staff and the housekeeping staff to do things as much as they used to. So that's one thing we're seeing. To take care of requests, what we're seeing a lot is AI. AI has really been around for a long time. In other industries, but in hospitality, we're seeing it in the guest reservation side, but more importantly on the operational side, all the large brands are now adopting AI. And I can tell you that I'm very involved with the brands on that. So we're just talking about AI. We're talking about the workflow automation with chatbots, answering FAQs when the customer's asking basic things at the hotel, like, what's your pool hours? Can I bring a dog? Can I, those kind of questions that they normally get inundated with, they're being answered automatically and you don't even know it now, because they actually use time slicing or voice slicing technologies where you can't even tell it's not a real person, and voice inflections and all that. We're also seeing solutions where we're seeing a combination in the ecosystem where people are working together to create this. The problem is that every other industry, the question I ask a lot of brands and owners, I say, why as a guest can I go during my stay and order food from Uber Eats and know exactly what's going on with my food order up to the minute? Even when it comes knocking at my door, I know exactly what's going on. And yet in the hospitality room, I don't know what's going on. Why is that the case to be? And so owners and brands are starting to see that. They're saying, boy, you're right. That's something we've got to attack now more now with the whole need. And so we're seeing a new type of platform coming on where we're going to start integrating different technologies that are existing and putting them together in such a way that the guest can make a request and get taken by AI, and they were fulfilled by work order management, and then taken care of by staff through a mobile device and all those type of things. So we're seeing a lot more synergies happen than there were before, and owners don't want to rip and replace. So they're looking at how can I leverage what I currently have and still be able to take care of my guests a lot better, right? So that's a big change. Data analytics has always been important, but it's getting to be more and more important in hospitality. Again, back to doing more with less. This whole idea: how can I do more for my guests and less? KPI tracking, machine learning, knowing the trends of the guests, and creating more personalization to the guests, which has always been important, but it's even more important now where we can do it in an automated way. We're seeing that through data analytics and KPI tracking. The next thing we're seeing a lot is robotic process automation, RPA as it's called, okay? And that's everything from vacuum cleaning, common areas and ballrooms and other large areas automatically. You're going to start seeing these little robots going around and taking care of those areas. From taking care of sanitizing areas automatically, keeping things safe and clean, because someone mentioned that earlier about Epic thing mentioned about cleaning and safe. That is a big thing. Obviously, since COVID is very important and people want to be safe where they're staying in the room, how do you do that automatically? How do you make that sure that's happening where, again, we're seeing the staff and the housekeeping staff dwindle down 25% of what it used to be. And so how do you take care of all those things with a hotel and keep that going? Okay. The other thing we're seeing a lot, because the 2.5 years, renovations and upgrades have been a huge thing that have not been being done because they couldn't. Under COVID, they couldn't get the people in. They didn't have the supplies. They didn't have access, and that's a big thing right now. We're seeing a huge inundation with upgrades on TV systems and Wi-Fi systems and those type of things, and everybody's having to replace and rip and replace and put new things out there, but there's just not enough equipment. And again, if you're a brand, you're going to have brand standards. You're going to have certain brands you're going to need. So that's something to keep in mind with. But what is also happening though is bandwidth speeds. Bandwidth speeds have gone from where I saw a few years ago 100 meg to a gig. I mean, that's how fast it's gone. 300. If I know this, probably a lot of your people would be interested in hearing that, but you're seeing that go up a lot in the last few years. Okay, and ever since the COVID, now that's let loose, it's almost like it's doubled, tripled in some cases. The other thing that we're seeing is reduction of energy. Is people are very concerned about costs and how do we reduce energy, and obviously IoT is playing a big part of that. Is tracking energy and all that, and also how can I buy energy at a discount and those kind of things, because again, energy is a big cost factor in hotels. The other thing we're seeing is Web 3.0, and how do we get on the internet? How do I'm safe when I'm on the internet? And so they're learning different ways of doing that. We're going to see where you're not going to have to do the whole putting your name and number and all those kind of things anymore. It'll be a different technology that'll take care of that for you. But the whole idea is to make that whole experience a lot easier. And again, where guests can serve themselves and have less problems when they're trying to get access to the internet while they're in the hotel. The other big thing we're seeing with vendors and directly is interoperability and plug and play. That's been a big thing because of all the changes. A lot of brands are changing out different standards, and the vendors are starting to see, as a vendor community, the more we can work together, create a better ecosystem, make it easier for our owners to swap out technology and do things differently. It's a lot easier and better for everybody overall. So we're seeing that as a big change, because it used to be a very cottage industry where different vendors held a lot of control over certain interfaces and those type of things. And we're seeing that open up a lot in the last year or two, because the owners have been demanding it. But those are pretty much the big items. Any questions or any ideas besides that you want to talk about more?
Man, of course, the answer is yes. But as stated earlier, this is a concentrated version of this webinar. It's just the Cliff Note version. So we can always go into greater details on one-offs and follow-ups. But just a second question. What advice do you have for any partner trying to get into the hospitality tech business?
Well, I would suggest this is a great time to join. Okay, if you've never been in hospitality, there's a huge upswing. There's a lot of new business. I mean, I'll just give you an example. In January alone, I had over 22, 30 hotels come to me with new build opportunities just in January. Okay, so you're seeing is a huge upswing. People have the kind of like the dams have broken, and people are saying, okay, now is the time to spend money. I can build those things I want to build, and so I would keep a lookout in your area of new opportunities where you see a groundbreaking happening in that hotel is opening up in your area. Get with the owner, find out who the owner is or what the ownership company is doing with that, and meet with that owner and see what you can do to provide technology. Because what you may not know, okay, the GC has nothing to do with the technology.
That's a general contractor, right?
Yes,
The builder.
general contractor of a hotel has nothing to do with the technology. He may bring in, in some cases, low voltage, which is frowned upon. We tell our owners never to use the electrical companies to do that because they don't know what they're doing. The way they treat the other wires and they treat low voltage are totally different things, and it's important how you handle that. But the point is, the owner is responsible for that, or the management company that the owner is relying on is responsible for that. So, but like I said, GCs are not the people that are making those decisions. They can refer you to people that maybe are and talk to the owner type of thing, but they're not the ones that make that decision. The other thing I'd keep track of is the PIPs and renovations that are going on. Almost every hotel right now is going through renovation because 2.5, 3 years they've been in COVID. Okay, so there's something in their hotel they're having to upgrade, whether it's their TV system, their Wi-Fi system, or what have you, door locks, all kinds of things they're replacing in that hotel technology-wise. If it's a brand, independents are a little different. Okay, they're not required to do things as quickly and as often as other ones, but if it's a brand, definitely they're probably making some kind of change there. And I would definitely talk to the owner and say, hey, what renovations are you doing? And maybe can I help you with something like that on the technology side? And the other thing I would say is call Jet. I mean, my number is going to be there. We'll be glad to help you. If you got an opportunity coming up, we'll be glad to talk to you about it and, give you some advice on where you can go with that.
Fantastic. I apologize. I'm going through my slides here. Lastly, what is important to a hotel operator? How do they stack profit margins, customer satisfaction, and being competitive?
Yeah, I will tell you that every owner is concerned about price. That's always going to be their big thing. Okay. And I would talk about CapEx versus OpEx and how those work. Most owners are always worried about CapEx, not on new builds as much, but they're worried about it because new builds, they get the money from the bank. But OpEx is always a thing where when I say OpEx, it's the recurring cost to run that hotel with their technology. And I would talk about that. I would talk about value proposition, total cost of ownership, return on investment. But I'd stay away from soft money, okay, because people don't want to hear about soft money. They want to hear about, hey, if I don't have to replace this employee or hire back this employee because your technology does that for me, those are interesting things for an owner because that's a big need right now, as I told you. And I'd say the last thing, probably just as important, I mentioned before, was this brand approval. And brand approval is a very important thing. You will find some people go for variances and things like that, but it really has to be a strong case. But there are certain products they will not let you do that for. Okay, but in general, those are the three things I would focus on. It's CapEx, OpEx costs, value proposition, and the brand approvals. If you're not brand approved, certain things, like I said, for instance, bandwidth. It's not brand approval so much as long as you're working with one of the bigger companies and you can get through there. But there are some things you have to make sure you're doing with those brands to make sure that you're complying with what the owners need, which I definitely can help on that. But those are the things I would look at.
No, fantastic.
Obviously,
that was, again, a lot of information in 10 minutes or so. Thank you, Keith, for that. And again, I almost feel like I should owe you guys all an apology. I mean, hey, I got a little overzealous here. This is a great topic, hot topic. We will go over the hour. If you got to drop, remember it's being recorded. I will send out the recording. So hang with us as long as you can. We have 5-10 minute sessions coming up. On that note, Ready Wireless, take it away.
There you go, Chris. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Good morning, everyone. I'll try to keep this brief and on point. Ready Wireless, we are an end-to-end managed services provider. We have our own framework that, in short, visualizes data from a number, hundreds of purpose-built sensors. We have really designed the company around serving the channel and simplifying IoT, both for the customers and prospects that you work with, but more importantly, to really try to simplify IoT for the channel, for the agent. We know that IoT can be pretty intimidating, and truth be told, we've cast a pretty wide net in terms of the solutions that we bring to market. By serving the channel and working with thousands of agents, Telarus alone, 8,000 agents under their umbrella, a couple thousand that are active on a monthly basis, we're able as an organization to identify topical use cases that decision makers in specific vertical markets want to talk about. So our whole goal is to help you as an agent expand your conversation that you might be having inside of your Rolodex. We do that through hero solutions. So instead of looking at IoT as a bespoke use case or solution, implementation by implementation, we identify topics that are on point by vertical. Once we do that, we build Marcom around a particular message that we can equip all of the agents with, so it's easy to get the message out. We generate battle cards that help you with identifying who the target audience is, what the competitive landscape might look like in a particular market. We'll give you discovery questions. Really, all we do is put you in a position to identify qualified opportunities. And we don't expect anyone to be an expert in any one particular area. So you can pull us in. Our support team is there to be as involved or uninvolved in the sales process. It's a great example of how these hero products work. We know in terms of OEMs and network solution providers, we have built a solution that solves the state and municipality legislation that is occurring throughout the country. Panic buttons are becoming commonplace in terms of the space. Employee safety devices that are issued to lone workers on property so they can summon for help should they find themselves in a tense situation. Ready, the solution that we bring to market is based on LoRaWAN technology. And we include a Bluetooth network that helps pinpoint the actual location of an employee that might be in need when that button is pressed. It's a standalone system. It doesn't run or depend on existing Wi-Fi or other networks. Because of that, being independent, it is usually in favor of any IT group that we work with. There's no security risk or firewall issues that you may have to overcome. And with the redundancy on the wireless backhaul, it's a very dependable solution that addresses all of the requirements that we've seen, whether it's legislated rulings or demands that are made by the labor unions. The most important thing is that operating on the LoRaWAN network, it becomes a scalable solution. So while panic buttons or employee safety devices are kind of the door opener, they're topical and something that everybody in the space is interested in having a conversation about if they haven't already employed it. Kind of to Keith's point, the idea of IoT and LoRaWAN-based solutions and sensor management is that it allows us to continue to expand the conversation and help owners and operators do more with less. We have access to hundreds of different sensors out there that are purpose-built to monitor temperature and humidity, CO2 levels in the room, identify a healthy building versus that building that may have outdated or antiquated HVAC systems. Air quality is super important. We see in the warmer climates where mold and mildew can be an issue if air conditioners are running all over open, and the ability to monitor doors open and close solves a big problem for owners and operators. Be monitored 24/7, real time, with alerts that are that are activated based on anything that meets thresholds that might be a concern. In addition to the standard, hotels or resorts that we're talking about, we happen to Vinity today in the short-term rental space, VRBO, Airbnb solutions. There are a lot of rules and public regulations around occupancy parties. That's a major concern for property owners. In terms of noise ordinance, you have an Airbnb.
Yeah, Fred, I think we're losing you. You're talking about short-term rentals, VRBOs. What a great segue into additional vertical. Did we lose them all together? I don't know, Ben, do you want to jump in and take over?
Hey guys, this is Ben. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll fill in for where we lost Fred. So Fred was walking through. I'm sorry, he's in control, so I'll do my best at speaking to this one slide. Then, if need to, I can kind of run with it. What we're seeing.
You got a minute and a half left, so fill it up.
All right. What we're seeing in the short-term rental, the VRBO, the Airbnb. Looks like Fred's getting out of me. I'll stick on the market space. It looked like we had occupancy monitoring there. So we've got a couple of cool projects with some of those companies that are out there that are managing, several of the Airbnbs, the VRBOs, from the occupancy monitoring to the pool monitoring. These guys, reputation means everything there. So they have appliances on the ready. They've got extra fridges, extra freezers, extra ACs. But they need to know when they go bad. They don't want the customers, the tenants being, hey, my AC is not working, this isn't working. They want to get ahead of that. So putting a sensor on these things to get ahead of that keeps the reputation at bay, keeps the reviews. They're able to operate, just fine without, having to go in there and disturb someone's vacation. So a cool little niche market that is starting to pop up with technology for us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Again, more information may be sent out if you want to do a follow-up with Ready IoT on the boutique offerings. They feel like, they have for the space as well as that short-term rental. I think that's really an interesting area, VRBO and Airbnb. So moving on, Robert, you ready? You're up. Blue Line Communications.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Yep. So Blue Line, the part in every provider is talking about a different space in the hospitality vertical. We're going to talk about good old voice, right? Because the phones are still ringing at the front desk and in the F&B office and in sales and even in the rooms, believe it or not. And so we're going to talk about a few different ways we can offer voice services to hospitality. We actually have sort of a complementary vertical of hospitality, malls and office buildings and retailers, and it's all one similar vertical for us in those three spaces. And so Blue Line, as a provider, has a bit of an intermodal stance on providing voice service in the hospitality space. And what I mean by that is, first let me just say, when we talk about the hospitality space, we are seeing a huge rebound. And I could just share with you, I spend half the year in a hotel, and half of that half is in a hotel called the Courtyard Orlando North Lake Mary. And there were times during the height of COVID that I was literally, not figuratively, the only person in the hotel. They could not shut, and I was alone. And I will tell you, last night I had to look for a parking space. So as a Telarus partner, this should be a very compelling vertical to you because there's a huge rebound and demand that I saw with my own eyes when I had to park on the outskirts of a parking lot I used to be the only person in, and that was last night. And so in this space, if there is a property that has an investment in a legacy PBX that they are not ready to forklift out, we start with a simple PRI product. And so that can be, 23B channels, 46. We have hotels that want to bond up to 4 because they're large properties. And that is as simple as sizing the number of concurrent calls they need to make and providing the equipment and the service and porting their phone numbers over to our IP platform, and then working closely with the existing PBX vendor collaboratively to make sure that we replace existing potential TDM PRIs, right, or old school ILEC PRIs with a potentially much more cost-effective traditional PRI. And that could be good for you as the partner because that could be your foot in the door with this particular property. So you're getting there before they're ready to get rid of the traditional PBX. And we're happy to offer that service. And, all services we offer are IP, so we can do that service with or without managed broadband or managed fiber. And that can be just for the voice, or it could be used for the entire hotel. And so that's as simple as it gets. Keep your PBX, but get involved with a next generation provider and a Telarus partner so we can begin to move you down the path. We also have a complementary PBX product that can either be premise-based or cloud-based and can work with new IP phones or the existing analog phones they have. So this is a scenario where the property's phone system or PBX may be end of life. They may not be able to get proper support. And so the Telarus partner and Blue Line can come in together with a replacement PBX product and either put it on site or host it in the cloud. And then you get to do the scenario of keep the analog phones you have, right? There could be an investment that, the property doesn't want to make in new phones, or the property is ready to go with IP phones. And those can be cabled via Cat6 or Wi-Fi. And so you begin to have this, really great set of products that a property can take advantage of. And then, last but not least, is a full UCaaS on our UCaaS platform for these hotels that do not want to make the next generation of PBX part of their infrastructure, and they will go full UCaaS. And that can also be Wi-Fi enabled on the phones or cabled phones. And when you go full UCaaS, it can be a really great way to enable the food and beverage department, the sales department, those that book weddings. And so, where UCaaS is really exciting is, the rooms. There's some interesting things you can do in the rooms with programming buttons on the phones to say, push here and you get the local Domino's, right? So all of a sudden, if you want to order delivery food, you can put some of the buttons on the phones. And we've even had some of our properties make partnerships with local restaurants. So there's a lot of interesting UCaaS in the rooms, but where it really shines is the food and beverage department and the sales departments, and they really enjoy using UCaaS. In terms of a case study, and we can name names because this install is actually on the YouTube page we host. And so we're going to use 2 hotels in New York City. One is called the Gallivant, and the other is called the Shoreham. The Gallivant is right in the middle of Times Square, and the Shoreham is right by Central Park. So you could not get, for a hotel that doesn't brand itself as Marriott or Sheraton, you could not get 2 more centrally located hotels in major cities. And those particular hotels wanted to go full UCaaS everywhere. But as you can imagine, they were cabled for Cat 3 in every room. And so those two implementations, one hotel has 400 rooms, the other hotel has slightly less. So we're talking about a lot of rooms, 700 rooms between two hotels. These are not small properties. What they decided to do was put in a secondary Wi-Fi network. So we put that in for them, which was switches on every floor and at every individual distribution frame and access points. And those are really used for the phones only and for some internal use by hotel staff. When a guest surfs the web, it does not go over the same Wi-Fi network that the phone traffic goes over. And so all that equipment was put on every floor, and then Wi-Fi enabled phones in every room. So they did not have to recable, which would have been a heck of a job. And every one of those phones is pointed to the voice specific Wi-Fi network. And those phones were installed in both hotels over a period of, each hotel took about 3 days. And we did it in conjunction with the existing PBX. And when everything was live, the existing PBX was forklifted out. And like I said, the real benefits there were not having to recable 700 hotel rooms, and yet also giving the benefits of UCaaS to the sales and the food and beverage department. And so those were two full UCaaS implementations. On the PBX side, we're very proud that the PBX product is integrated with property management systems. And so you've really got to be prepared in the voice space to make sure you work with the property management systems. And then the other thing is to have a wake-up solution. It is not that common for guests in rooms these days to be really hammering the phones or asking for wake-up calls. Most people, when they know what time they want to wake up, it goes on the trusty old iPhone. But the fact is, for one of the two hotels I mentioned, we used our IVR product to emulate a wake-up call solution. So, we're really focused on the voice side of hospitality with or without managed internet. And I hope I took significantly less than 10 minutes, but I don't want to make it more complicated than it is. We're experts on voice.
Perfect. That was great. Great overview. Great explanation. Again, always a lot more behind the curtain. And encourage you guys to select a follow-up option with Blue Line and all these suppliers when that time comes. So with that in mind, Fortify, you're up. Take it away. 10 minutes.
Yeah. So the big thing from Fortify's perspective on hospitality is the panic button solution, right? And when we looked out in the marketplace to find the right solution to be able to provide as a managed service, Relay Pro came across as one of the top providers out there. What we really love about Relay Pro isn't just that it's, a panic button, right? Everybody talks about, panic buttons, and, we put a Bluetooth beacon in every room and common area. Hotel staff can hit the panic button and be able to, notify immediately their location. But it also works as a walkie-talkie, right? It also, if you guys are all familiar with Nextel, right? We all used to have push-to-talk Nextel phones, way back in the day. The ability to be able to use the communicator for push-to-talk, from the front desk to be able to talk to the staff, for the front desk to be able to reach maintenance workers, it really works as a great tool for the hotel staff. It reduces budget. We did one for a Courtyard Marriott down in Florida. The use case has just been through the roof. The amount of minutes that they put on this device communicating between management and employees is huge. One of the other big features of it is language translation. One of the hotels that we had a communication barrier with the assistant manager and their staff because he didn't speak Spanish. And the ability to be able to translate, I think 15 different languages through the button to communicate better with staff was a huge hit for them. And I think that's, the important piece, right? I travel all the time. I talk to Marriott properties, right? Marriott, Hilton, these guys have pushed down compliance to a lot of their hotels to have these solutions in place. There's a lot of hotels out there running Relay Pro, but they have 2 panic buttons. You know what I mean? They're not using it for two-way communication. They're not using it as a communication tool throughout their organization. And we've been able to go in and provide this as a service, right? Why fortify, right? Why not just go buy it from Relay Pro, right? The biggest reason is we can provide it as a full managed service on an operating expense for your customer, right? We can take ownership of it. We can take ownership of the licensing, and we can provide it as a monthly service, a commissionable monthly service to the hotel. So they're not outlaying big capital to go buy the devices and buy it. And then we can do full break fix replacement and inventory for them on this solution. It's a phenomenal product. It's one of the best in the marketplace. It's approved with all the major hotel brands. And we can go out and fully install it, set it up, do the training, and do ongoing training, right? That's one of the biggest things that we found with this product is, as everybody knows, management staff at these hotels turn over quite frequently. And the ability to have a managed service with support over the term, to be able to go back out and provide ongoing training and support for staff has been huge, and a lot of reasons why people have come to us for this solution. I threw a couple other use cases in there. Visiting nurses, we're seeing it. These communication devices take a SIM card directly. So every communicator has its own SIM card. So you can take it off property. You can use it out in the parking lot. You can use it as a two-way communicator anywhere, right? So we've got visiting nurses, delivery services for food, large venues, concerts, events, education classrooms, replacing the old intercom systems, with the teachers being able to have a two-way communicator with panic option for schools and facility manager. But I just wanted to throw that piece in there. But really, really great solution. We can size it for any hotel. We'll come out and install all the beacons in all the different rooms. We'll work with the maintenance department, get everything labeled, and then be able to provide and train the service. So, Chris, I'm going to take a lot less than 10 minutes and give you some time back, but phenomenal product. We've had a lot of success with it in the hotel industry and looking to continue to build off of that.
Very good. Very interesting take on panic buttons. Plus, as you mentioned, a lot more than a panic button. Very good. Modus, Joel, you ready to take us home? Actually, we might not be too much over time. Thank you, John, for that.
Yep, I am all set. Great. Good morning, afternoon. I guess it depends where you're at in the country these days. So great to see everybody. Great talks. I was actually sitting here taking some notes, listening to the guys talking ahead of us. And so we're, I'm Joel Urano, I'm CEO of Modus Systems. We're out of Dallas, Texas. We do a lot of different things, but the one I want to talk about today, or the two things I want to talk about today, is programmatic advertising and EV charging. So I think somebody asked a question earlier: are the in hospitality, the hotels, is EV charging on the radar? Absolutely, it is, unequivocally. So we've been working with a select group of the Telarus partners over the last, Chris, 8 months now, probably, maybe longer at this point, almost a year. And our hotel pipeline alone is north of 600 properties. Our EV charging station pipeline through the Telarus partners, and Chris, you don't even know this, it's north of $1 billion of sales. So we're really excited about this. I've got a short presentation here that I'm going to share. So EV charging stations is really two types of chargers. You got level 2 chargers, which are these ones here. They're slower, 6 to 8 hour, 10-hour charge, and then you've got the level 3 chargers, which would you think something like the Tesla superchargers. Significant difference in price. On these level 2 chargers, this setup right here, you're probably talking $8,000-9,000. On this level 3 charger here, we are close. For this charger and the power unit that goes with it, we're getting close to $150,000. So big difference in price, but also big difference in performance. We do a lot of. We're working on some education stuff for the partners. Obviously we want to. The partners want to sell the big chargers, but sometimes they just don't make sense. So what I mean by that is, on a level 2 charger, like the smaller one, if it's a hotel guest and they'll be parked there overnight, you don't need the big charger because we don't want them on the charger taking up the unit, right? And it's done in 15 minutes, and they have to come out and pull their car off the charger, at 10:30 at night. So you really have to look at the type of environment that these charging stations are going in. So there's the level 2, the level 3. This is a really short deck, so I'm going to plow through as quickly as possible. The solution we work with is a company called Loop. So there's an app that drives all the technology, drives finding it, reserving a charging station. There's different billing plans that we can put in place for the each different hotel. So you can do a pay-per-use, you can do a hybrid. One of the hotel brands that we're working with, and it's one of the national ones that you guys have probably all stayed at, talking about if you're a gold partner or platinum, or I guess a gold, frequent stay, frequent guest, or platinum or higher, then you get free charging. So there's lots of options we can do. Now we're talking, these are brand size, so it doesn't get down to the 1 or 2 or 10. It's got to be some larger opportunities, but definitely there. So these are network chargers. I'll just kind of let everybody know now. There's no opportunity for a cellular activation on the data, but I'll get to that piece in just a second because we do have an opportunity for that as well. Right, so we can set the prices on the chargers, make sure that we're competitive in the market. Electricity in California is going to be higher than it is in Texas or Mississippi or Georgia. So we really you work to monitor the rates based off the charging rates based off of local. So just like a gas station. You can look on one corner, it could be $3.28, and across the street it could be $3.35. So there's a strategy behind that. We work with all the businesses to put those in place. Some of the benefits to the charging station, so you can monetize your parking lot. You've got a couple parking spaces. Well, now they're generating revenue for the customer rather than just sitting there doing nothing. Attracting new customers. So, quick story: I was in San Diego a couple weeks ago, and I had rented a Tesla from Hertz, and the downside was it's like, all right, well now I have to find a hotel that's got the EV charger. So it brought me to that particular Marriott, the one I stayed in, rather than going to the Hilton that was across the street that didn't have an EV charger in it. So it is something you can use to draw customers in from a hospitality perspective. With the rental fleets, Hertz, Avis, Budget, Enterprise, all of those guys are going to electric cars. Well, that's it's definitely going to be something that business travelers, like-minded travelers, are going to look at and say, well, do I really want to go drive to a charging station and look at get in line, wait an hour, charge for half an hour, and then go back at 10 o'clock at night? No. So there's definitely opportunity there. Future proofing. That is, we build out the charging station, the infrastructure. We manage that whole project for the customer, so they don't have to do anything. We're talking concrete cutting, permitting, all the construction permits that we need, electrical engineering drawings, site plans, and with that, though, it can be very turnkey for the customer. But as you all know, we're really on the cusp on the EV charging side. So, our plan is and often what we suggest is, let's build the infrastructure for future capacity, meaning maybe we build the infrastructure for 15 chargers, but we only actually install 7 today. And, when the demand's there, the cabling's already done. We just need to hang them on the post and plug them in. And that way we can easily add more capacity, when the demand's there. So profit over time, again, as the EV chargers grow, the electric vehicle use is adopted more, then you're going to see more utilization of the chargers. I'm trying to get through this quickly, but I'll definitely share the presentation. Tax benefits. So if you own them, there's actually a $100,000 federal tax credit, income tax credit on the charging station, and then lots of utility rebates and benefits. So I can get into that, but it's very site by site. It's not state. It gets down to the zip code level. So, and even the utility provider. Promotional service, I'll touch on that in just a second. sustainability. If companies have a green initiative, this is a good way to take it. And kind of get that started on the EV side, and then flexible payment options. So there are the two buying options, which is the next slide. So there's a as a service model where they can basically do a 5-year lease and then $1 buyout at the end, but there's no out-of-pocket expense to the customer. Let me skip ahead one, and I'll come back to the next piece. So direct ownership. So your customers can buy them on the direct ownership side. So they increase the property valuation. They get the tax incentives. There's state utility rebates. It's an amenity for your guests. There's an opportunity for advertising. Again, I'll go back a slide and touch on that. That's the future proofing of your business. You don't want to be the Blockbuster. You want to be the Redbox, right? Or you want to be the Netflix. Reducing your carbon footprint for the businesses that are really big on, carbon footprint, carbon emissions, even carbon offsets. So the cons to buying yourselves. This is not a cheap project. These can be. We've got a couple projects that were well into the millions, a couple over 10 million. So they can be very expensive. The utilization risk. If the customer buys and puts them in the ground, nobody uses them, then they're not making money. There's maintenance and then self-directed pricing management. So those are the downsides on the ownership. Here's the really exciting one: is the owner-operator model. So we've got a partner that is an owner-operator charging stations, and they'll come in and say, "Okay, Mr. Hotel, we'll pay for the charging station, we'll pay for the install. We'll take a lion's share of the electricity revenue, and then share. But we'll do a rev share back to the property owner. So now, the customer, the hotel, they get all the benefit having the charging station on their premises without any of the out-of-pocket expense. So yes, they get a lower piece of the electricity revenue, but they're not making that $500,000, $1 million investment into having charging stations at their property. So let me back up one. I'll touch on the advertising. So this is an example of the Loop Focus Unit. So really, it's this screen right here. So this is a couple level 2 chargers, but this screen, this is we've got programmatic digital advertising, national brands. We've got Facebook, American Airlines, United, Chase, Wells Fargo, Michelob, Dollar General. The list goes on. There's almost 2,000 national brand advertisers that have already bought advertising for these screens. So these also generate revenue. The other really exciting thing about these screens is that for the property, they get to put some of their own impressions up there. So they can put, come to the manager's happy hour at 5 p.m., 5 to 7, and have, free wine and cocktails, or, free wine and beer, whatever, right? So it's a place for the property to advertise their own limited time offers or promotions. And these are also revenue generating. So the advertising revenue is a residual recurring revenue back to the partner. The electricity revenue has two pieces, and the electricity revenue is there's commission on the hardware sale, and then there's also, depending on which owner operator and kind of how the purchase goes down, and I'm happy to talk through this with anybody, but if this owner operator I was referring to is they end up being the ones that buy it, and they come make the investment in your customer's property, there is a residual on the electricity sales that comes back to you, the sales partner, and that's for the life of the charger. So you could have 10 years of residual income off these chargers. So we think that's pretty exciting. We've got lots of positive feedback. As I said, the pipeline with Telarus right now is over $1 billion, actually 1.2. And there's another large one coming in that actually one opportunity by itself is even larger than that. So end user ease, good results. Again, it's app driven. Customer can pay on their with the credit card at the charging station, but they can use the Loop app to identify where the chargers are at, make their payments, and manage it. And that's it. Try to make it quick. So
perfect, love it. Yeah, I love that billion with a B, right? Like a Dr.
Billion with a B. That is a B. Yes, not an M.
Yes.
So,
we're very good. Great teaser. Obviously, I think a lot of people want to follow up on that. Good opportunities there, not only in hospitality, but anywhere there's a big parking lot.
There's one other thing, Chris, I just want to mention on the screens. So we don't have to put screens with the chargers, but so we can hang them independently. And this is the beautiful thing. So there is actually an opportunity for cellular data activation. And so we've got it set up now where, you as a partner can do the T-Mobile activation for the data, and then we use that to push the screens, to power the data we need. But it also works really well for, on T-Mobile's 5G plans for backup internet. So it's really like a double whammy, right? You get the T-Mobile commission from Telarus, plus you get the commission from us on the advertising. So
very cool. Very cool. Thanks for that. Keith, I didn't prep you for this, but do you have any observations or comments after seeing all those presentations? Do we hit it on the mark? I know there's a lot more to talk about, but we couldn't cover it all today, but do we cover some good stuff?
Definitely the EV charger. I'm sorry I didn't mention that in my initial approach. Definitely EV chargers is a big thing. Obviously, we're seeing activity in the panic buttons also. There's 65,000 hotels in North America, guys. And I don't know if you realize it, but they're all needing these things that we're talking about. So there's a huge opportunity. Huge opportunity.
Excellent. So as we wrap up, and again, we're not too much over. I appreciate everyone hanging in there with us. But if you want to scan this QR code, it'll take you to my Blink card for contact information. You can schedule a call. The YouTube page has commercials on the playlist for each of these upcoming webinars, and inside the details of the video, there's a Zoom link to register. So, or you could just keep following me on LinkedIn, and we'll be pushing these out at least 3 or 4 weeks in advance. So, with that, we'll wrap this up and let you get back to your day. And you will receive a follow-up email from me with a survey in it asking about, what was the most impactful part and which supplier would you like a follow-up with. So you can, by all means, reach out to them directly. But if you want me to help facilitate that connection, I can do that for you as well. So thanks for your partnership. Thanks for your friendship. And suppliers, thanks for showing up and bringing the knowledge and the goods. Have a great remainder of your day.